Now, you know that I absolutely love medicine. Whether it be a nondescript black goop given unto me by Nanny McPhee that makes my boils go away, or a funkily flavoured slime that eases my old man coughing fits, even if only for a moment. Now, of course, like any form of pharmaceutical, there is always a risk involved with its consumption. Christ, if you're American, you are very well acquainted with that. With advertisements being required to speed wrap every single potential hypothetical and theoretical malady that could befall you overeating a vitamin gummy or something. Of course, that is just a legal technicality. The vast majority of the time, those stated symptoms are present in less than 1% of the consumer base. But still, what happens if, hypothetically, it was more than 1%? What if, hypothetically, you were in that percentage? What if, hypothetically, your children were in that percentage? Well, we're about to get an answer to that very dumb question that our girlfriends like to ask us. Would you still love me if I was a worm? Yeah, this video is going to be a sad one. The Thalidomide Children. Please leave a like and a comment on this video because it really helps me in the algorithm. Now, as you have probably noticed, I like chairs. Because you see, I am a great big fat boy with a portly disposition and a blubbery consistency, so I tend to eat through chairs like a fat kid with cake. So trust me when I say that I know what quality is like when I can feel it on my tubby tush. So in steps today's sponsor, C7, who dare to take a stand by letting you take a seat with their premier chairs. Whether it be for that 9 to 5 or a cheeky all-nighter on Balatro, C7's expertly crafted chairs will be sure to endure the toils of you with its dedicated models that I will now demonstrate. With office mode, you have such sweet features as larger and wider seat cushions that allow you to park that dump truck of yours without being wanting in room or comfort. And golly, look how far this can bend back. This isn't the official office mode, but it is in here. Perhaps you're not wanting to hustle and are instead wishing to just lie back and vegetate, then relaxation mode is right up your street. What's the deal with relaxation mode? Well, check this out. It's got a footrest, so that means that you can kick back knowing that you've got a cushion for your tootsies a mere pull away. A rare luxury that other brands of chairs never even bother to include. With 5 levels of backrest height adjustments accommodating for heights ranging from 5'7" to 6'9", and a supporting weight of up to a whopping £300, which is perfect for some of you out there, C7 is a comfortable choice to lounge through the merriment of the holiday season. And if you're interested, you need only go to FlexiSpot.com and use code 24BFC7, little bit of a mouthful that one, at checkout to save $50 on your order. You will also get a 10-year warranty and a 30-day return policy, even if you for some reason don't use the code. There is nothing stopping you from kicking your feet back this holiday season, so you may as well do it with a C7. Now, back to the video. Thalidomide. What is it? Well, you may know it as Contergan, Talidex, Distaval, or a myriad of other sci-fi names. Well, thalidomide is an oral medication first developed in 1952, with it first being synthesized by the Swiss-based chemical company Basel, which is now known as Novartis. Damn, I wonder why they changed their name. Anyway, during the initial synthesis, it didn't have any notable or even present effects on test animals, and as such, all research was discarded. I know, how anticlimactic. However, not really, because our story really begins when the research was bought and continued by the German pharmaceutical company Grünenthal, who, fun fact, assigned one Heinrich Muchter as head of research for this product to be. What's so special about him? Well, during the war, he was the deputy director for the Krakow Institute for Typhus and Virus Research. I'll give you just a little second to dwell upon the implications of a German being the head of a Polish institution for virology during a German occupation. All I'm saying is that after the war, when he was formally accused of using people from the Buchenwald concentration camp for volunteers, he fled the country to the conveniently placed West Germany, where he just so happened to fall into a position of influence. I mean, what are the chances? Google Operation Paperclip. Alongside this, he had at his disposal a crack team of former colleagues, including the likes of Nazi head of pathology Martin Stammler, former medical doctor at Sachsenhausen concentration camp SS Hauptsturmführer Heinz Baumkotter, and Otto Ambros. A chemist. And a convicted war criminal who discovered sarin gas, who was also paperclipped. But anyway, that is a very interesting assortment of people to bring together to create a drug that will be taken by pregnant women. But anyway, due to Muchter's very particular skill set, he and his team were able to eventually isolate a byproduct of thalidomide that could effectively be used as a sedative. After refining the compound and spending a fair chunk of time making random rats and Rottweilers go for a honk shoe, they eventually cleared it as safe for human testing. Happy days, right? Well, sort of, because you see, there was one oversight in the human trial phase that would come back to bite them in the arse. But we'll get on to that. With the compound thoroughly researched within acceptable parameters and given the funky new Star Wars name of Contergan, it finally hit the shelves of chemists all around the globe on October the 1st, 1957. And wouldn't you know it, it was a smash hit, helping all the disparate night owls and whinging wheezers all over the world finally get some reprieve and soothing slumber. Which, by the way, it was seemingly so efficient at that it was considered a wonder drug. Whether it be cough, cold, nausea, or insomnia, it would functionally be a panacea for all. Christ, it was even used to treat historically feared medieval horrors like leprosy. There was just one teensy tiny little hitch though. Women. Fucking always causing problems, aren't they? Well, they were, of course, customers and consumers of this freshly concocted chemical cocktail, which, by itself, wouldn't be much of an issue. However, women have this rather interesting phenomenon that occurs when they really love a man, or they need free shit from the government. They end up pregnant. This is an unforeseen variable with dire repercussions. Now, you might be sitting there and thinking, so what if they're pregnant? What's the worst that could happen? You shouldn't have said that. The worst did happen. There was a rather comical oversight. Egads, they forgot to test and trial Contergan on pregnant women, because pregnant women were but the stuff of legend. How could we possibly foresee this? It's not like we're in the midst of a period of history literally called the fucking baby boom or anything like that. No. Pregnant women taking such drugs was completely beyond the pale and couldn't possibly have been predicted. Now, that may seem like a rather critical oversight. And it was, but their blasé reasoning of not pursuing those kinds of tests was that they didn't believe that the drug could reasonably pass through the placental barrier to harm the hypothetical embryo. Granted, how could they even reasonably test it on them without running the risk of turning the child into a T-Rex? Thus, there just wasn't much perceived need or desire to test on these walking spawn points. Spoiler alert, this ended very, very badly. In 1958, reports were coming in of babies all over the world being born with a wide array of physical deformities. After ruling out environmental factors, genetic predispositions, or the possibility of the poor mother being a dirty, they quickly realised the common thread. They all took thalidomide during their pregnancies. They had unknowingly just cut the lives of their newly born children short, or arguably worse yet, didn't. Now, let's have a brief overview of the fucked up maladies that befell these children. And no, I won't pull any punches because I had to read into all of this and soak it in for research. So, I'd like to think that I've earned the right to cope by making tastelessly fucked up jokes about deformed children who either died early or lived to have a full and fulfilling life despite their disabilities. So, performatively mauled elsewhere. The nature of the defects were not uniform in their manifestation, though it usually could be classed as dysmelia, amelia, phocomelia, bone hypoplasticity, and a large swathe of other debilitating birth defects that came all bundled together in a shit genetic loot box. The term of pregnancy during ingestion of thalidomide was actually crucial in deciding what gnarly symptoms could befall the child. Ingestion on day 20 would be central damage to the brain, day 21 would be the eyes, day 22 the ears and face, day 24 the arms, and from day 25 to 28 would be the legs. And the child is only in the safe zone when it's past 42 days. And the fact we have such day-by-day statistics for the symptom breakdown shows you the sheer scale of this tragedy. The total estimation for those affected were numbered over 10,000, with some data hinting at double that with 20,000. The drug was distributed almost globally, so as a result, the Thalidomide Children, as they came to be known as, were also present worldwide. Though they were being observed almost immediately post-circulation, they, for whatever fucking reason, didn't put two and two together. And in Germany, for example, they just assumed it was due to nuclear tests. Because, as we all know, pregnant women love hanging around near nuclear test sites. Here in the UK, the drug was in stores for about 3 years, from 1958 to 1961, under the product name Distaval. Despite that relatively short shelf life, the total incidences of thalidogenesis were still at about 2,000, half of whom died within months of entering the world. Due to the obvious hatred gained from creating 2,000 deformed babies, lawsuits started flying in, with it reaching its conclusion in 2009. Yes, that is how fucking long this shit took. When Distillers Biochemicals was required to make a payout of around £28 million in compensation, or in today's money, around £43.4 million, that's only 15 years difference. Thank you very much, money printer. But despite the fact that pharmaceutical firms are absolutely dripping in money, this, at the least, is a good enough chunk of change to see them maybe wince for a second. Oceania also had a payout given. As of the 107 that were affected in Australia and New Zealand, one of the survivors, one Lynette Rowe, brought forth a class action lawsuit against Grunenthal. After the typical weaseling and ducking of big companies in lawfare, eventually a settlement was reached in 2012. 89 million Australian dollars, or adjusted for inflation and translated into a real currency, £64.2 million. It's also worth mentioning that the Anglos of the Orient were so instrumental in producing concrete reports proving that thalidomide was the cause of all of the issues, with the main credit for whistleblowing going to obstetrician William McBride, whilst the monkey who put in the actual work to prove it was German paediatrician Widukind Lenz. And speaking of Germany, they of course also suffered from it. However, despite the ability for the chemical compound to penetrate placental barriers, there was one wall that it couldn't penetrate. The Berlin Wall. Indeed, East Germany was completely untouched by the cursed compound because of bureaucracy, with the only other country to completely avoid the event chain being that of the United States, who avoided adoption of thalidomide due to the FDA actually doing their jobs and rejecting its application. Very cool, FDA. I can almost forgive you for outlawing the importation of haggis, but I fucking won't. Now we will close out our national overview with the biggest loser on the list, Spain, who, due to bad safeguarding and overall comical incompetence, had the drug widely available all the way up to the 80s. Meaning that decades after it was proven that this drug does in fact cause genetic mutations in children, the company was still making it and still selling it to Spain. Even funnier is the fact that the Spanish government formally denied that they had ever even imported the drug, and they only finally admitted that they did in 2008. This probably brought great happiness to the 300-odd survivors who would definitely clench their fists at the sky in damnation if they had fucking hands. So surely there was hell to pay for the likes of Grunenthal. And you would be right to assume so, because they were rightfully sued into oblivion. Not just from the previously mentioned Lynette Rowe case, but also in Germany for involuntary manslaughter. Though that case was chucked, the company still paid 100 million Deutschmarks, or around £18 million when converted and adjusted for inflation. This money was funneled into the newly established Kontergan Foundation for Disabled People. The German government then followed suit by putting forward an additional £54 million. So, at the least, the survivors got well compensated. So, they could get only the highest quality mech suits or whatever the fuck it was they needed. So, with all of that, where does that leave us? Well, it was only in 2012 that Grunenthal formally apologised and acknowledged their wrongdoings. They made up for all of the pain, misery and deformities that they had caused by supposedly unveiling a statue of a fucked up looking baby as a memorial. No, I couldn't find a picture of it, and frankly, I don't know if I would even want to show it anyways, so here's a picture of a rock in Cardiff that serves the same purpose in respecting the fallen fetal Fomorians without making the effigy a deformed baby. Poignant it may be, but I would still rather not have to look at that when on my evening stroll. So, with all of that being said, what is the main takeaway that you should have from this fucked up episode of Pharmaceutical Horrors? It's that Big Pharma has the exact same response as the government when it comes to inflicting horror upon poor innocent people. Deny it, wait for everyone who was involved in it to die, then give some half-arsed apology half a century later.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube! Everybody just subscribe!